Good afternoon. This is a courtesy announcement that the meeting will be going live momentarily. Thank you. Good afternoon. This is a courtesy announcement that the meeting is now live on the web. Thank you very much.
Hi, Anna. Would you like to do a quick mic check? And Anna, I think your camera might be activated but shut off. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Oh, there you are. Thank you very much. Chairperson Lee, I see you've joined us. Would you like to do a quick mic check?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, George. This is Otto Lee checking. 1, 2, checking.
Thank you very much. I hear you loud and clear.
Great, perfect.
And we're just waiting on Supervisor Chavez for the quorum.
Hi, Colin. This is Mara. Can you hear me?
Hi, Mara. I hear you. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
And Chairperson Lee, I see that Vice Chairperson Chavez has joined us, so we're ready whenever you are. I believe you're on mute, Chairperson Lee.
Of course I was. Thank you. All right, good. Alrighty, so let me get a jacket on and then we're all good to go. All right, let's rock and roll.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson Lee. And we'll start with the roll call. Vice Chairperson Chavez
Here.
and Chairperson Lee. Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Oh, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the first FGOC meeting, committee meeting of the new year of 2021. I am Supervisor Otto Lee, and I'm honored to chair the Finance Government Operations Committee along with my Vice Chair, Supervisor Cindy Chavez. This is actually my first meeting chairing the committee meeting, so as a supervisor, so please forgive me if I make any mistakes here. Thank you. And now I'll ask the other members of the dais to introduce themselves, or those who are on Zoom, starting here with our county exec representative.
As the Keeley Deputy County Executive.
And this is Greg Ituria, County Budget Director.
Okay. If that's the ones who wants to introduce themselves, and the rest are here, you could see the name on the Zoom list here. And if both supervisors present, we have a quorum of this committee. Second item of the day is public comment. This item is reserved for persons desiring to address the committee on any matter that's not on this agenda. Members of the public who wish to address the committee on any item not listed on the agenda should request to speak at this time. Individuals will be called to speak in turn. Speakers are limited to the following: 3 minutes if the chairperson or designee determines that 5 or fewer persons wish to address the committee. 2 minutes if the chairperson or designee determines that between 6 and 14 persons wish to address the committee. And 1 minute if there are more than 15 people wanting to address the committee. The law does not permit committee action or extended discussion on any items that's not on the agenda except under special circumstances. If the committee action is requested, the committee may place the matter on a future agenda. Statements that require a response may be referred to staff for reply in writing. Clerk, would you please let me know how many speakers we have for public comment today?
Certainly, we have one speaker in queue.
Okay, good. So thank you, Clerk. And please set the time for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you, everyone. Scott Largent. I was hoping that the proper investigation could be done for Reuben Hill. Reuben Hill that passed away on a side of a building across from St. James Park. Now, the coroner will eventually, of course, provide her report. And I fully support our coroner's office. They're very transparent. This man will have, things will be done right in his death, in a way. But is there an independent investigation that can be launched through the county? Now, this might not make you guys look too good, but I think it's important for the public to understand that this man really didn't have options to get help, to get shelter. A couple of people brought this to my attention. Even if he would have made it out to the Armory in Gilroy, after I believe 9:30, the bus wasn't really running. And with limited capacity of 6 people on the bus, I don't think he could have made it out there. And then he would have been turned away at the door because he was sick. And somebody brought that to my attention. Reuben Hill's life should have mattered. And what have we been talking about a lot in 2020? that Black Lives Matter. And a lot of politicians kind of went forward and fully supported that movement right there. Okay. And I fully support it. I don't support the bad apples that are involved that are burning stuff down and causing property damage. But what I'm kind of curious about is why homeless Black lives do not matter in Santa Clara County. And I know this is a bold statement right here, but I'm starting to see numbers out there on the streets. There's a lot of Black people on our streets that are homeless. And I get the African American thing. I mean, I fully get everything, and I'm learning more from people in our community that are kind of getting me up to speed. But I just don't understand. Our behavioral health system let this man down. Our shelters let him down. Our hospitals let him down. And you guys can do the right thing and investigate it properly. When the coroner report comes out, I know it's going to be done right. But let's figure out why he was denied shelter, how the system doesn't function properly, what's going on with behavioral health that is just non-existent. You know, I say that a lot. They are out to lunch. They're not doing their job. And I know we'll get more into that when we're discussing audits for certain departments. I'm really wondering why behavioral health has never been audited. Let's do the right thing for this man. His life should have mattered. So, and he just, you know, guys, please.
This concludes the public speakers.
Thank you. I do want to ask staff, Deputy Chief Lee, you were in Office Support Housing previously and know these issues very well. Is it possible for us to get an off-agenda report specifically on this individual, Ruben Hill?
Yes, we can look into the specific individual and provide the committee with an off-agenda report.
Please, yeah, thank you very much. That was a very distressing message we got, and I just wanted to look into it to see if there's anything we could do to prevent these in the future. Thank you. All right. Now, number 3, now we're moving to approve the consent calendar and changes to the committee's agenda. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered at the end of the regular agenda for discussion. The committee may also add items on the regular agenda to the consent calendar. Notes to the public is that there's no separate discussion of consent calendar items, and the recommended actions are voted on in one motion. If an item is approved on the consent vote, the specific action recommended by staff is adopted. Members of the public who wish to address the committee on items listed on the consent calendar should comment under this item now. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes total. So first of all, let me ask Vice Chair Chavez, do you have any changes you would like to make to the consent calendar this time?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Now, I would actually like to remove item 10 from the consent calendar. Item 10 is this committee's meeting date for the next year. And I believe our officers have concluded that there are a couple of tweaks that we could make. So I suggest we take that up at the end of our agenda today.
Chairperson Lee, if I may, just for the record, I believe it's item number 9, the committee calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry, item number 9. My
No
bad.
problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the catch. Thank you.
May we have a motion?
Yes. Well, first of all, is anybody public who would like to make any statement on the consent calendar? Do we have
There are currently no speakers in queue, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, right. Then I think we're ready for motion. And Vice Chair, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That was easy. Okay. Item number 4. The first item on our agenda today is the management audit of the Facilities and Fleet Capital Programs Division. Here to present is Auditor Cheryl Soloff, and I believe the FAF Director, Jeff Draper, is here as well. Cheryl, would you like to present this report, or Jeff?
Yes, and can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. This report previously came to the committee, and there was only one area of disagreement between our office and the respective departments. The committee directed that we discuss that area of disagreement and come back with a proposal to address that concern. And that was recommendation 5.8, which was to create a separate capital budget section within the annual recommended budget to address, to provide better input for the Board of Supervisors and the public regarding the details of capital budgets. For a variety of reasons, in part because of the size of the existing county budget. When we put our heads together, we sort of came up with an option, which would be to provide better detail in the capital improvement plan rather than trying to add additional material to the already lengthy budget. And so our proposal is to have the CIP, this section of the CIP that addresses the capital improvement budget be modified to provide greater detail on the capital projects that are proposed in the recommended budget, particularly the basis for the estimated cost. And that would preclude having to have a separate section in the budget book. So assuming if that compromise or alternative solution is acceptable to the committee, then there are no areas of dispute within between us and the associated departments.
Thank you, Cheryl. Vice Chair Chavez, do you have any questions for staff?
I would move approval of that recommendation, and then I do have just one area that I want to talk a little bit about that's part of the audit.
Okay, great. So yeah, go ahead. You want to go for your comments?
Sure, thanks. So first of all, I really appreciate Cheryl, you and Jeff Draper getting a chance to, to think about best options, because I think you're right. This is really more just a deep dive into information for transparency and also for planning purposes. One thing that I just wanted to ask Jeff Draper a little bit about is, and just really this is to get your thoughts on this, that one of the biggest challenges I know with construction is just the sheer, oh, great background, is just the sheer number of moving parts in every single project. And so two things that I'd be interested in understanding is, are you already in the process of thinking about whether or not there's any advantage to peer reviews or other kinds of strategies prior to doing RFPs or RFQs, so that we're better able to determine how to lessen the amount of change orders that end up being, part of our projects? And I suspect we would have them in all projects, but I wonder if that's something that is a practice that you're already using or something you're thinking about.
It is a practice that we have been using. Just kind of a little background. We really started, as you know, David Barry. When David Barry came aboard our organization back in, let's say around 2014, David and I started formulating the idea of putting together a very robust planning effort in the beginning of these projects. It's been an evolving situation where we've been working with consultants and then peer consultants and others to develop our budgets better. Obviously, the biggest thing is making sure that we understand, we have a very robust plan, that we have an understanding of what the department needs. We've thought through all the details. We thought on how we need to deliver the project, about the logistics of the project in case we need swing space. And then, of course, different delivery methods that we're using to try to mitigate changes as we move along. So I think we've come a long way since 2014, and certainly the auditor has found that we need to continue to work on that, and we intend to. So yes, I would say absolutely we will continue using consultants to do peer reviews.
Yeah, one thing that that I was curious about is I know that now that people are using much more, using CAD much more in terms of a planning tool. I'm just wondering if that's really helped us or not. And one of the things I'm observing with the CAD tools being, or appears to be, that that they're most effective if you have to do so much planning in advance. And I wonder, are we finding that to be helpful or useful in terms of our ability to look at cost and timing of projects?
Yeah, so I guess it all depends on the type of project. If we're talking something like the Vietnamese American Services Center or the animal shelter, those are kind of from the ground up construction projects. There's not a lot of mystery except for maybe what's under the ground. So once you get out from under the ground, the change orders, the unforeseens kind of revolve into either design errors and omissions that the architect has made or customer requested changes. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of straightforward. And what we've been trying to work on is make sure that we don't have a lot of customer requested changes in the back end. And of course, work with our architects and engineers to improve their designs, make sure there's no surprises. However, if we're doing tenant improvements, you're hitting right on a good point, which is the AutoCAD drawings, or what we refer to as the as-built record of the existing buildings. Over the years, the county, as it owns buildings, makes changes to those buildings. And although they're accumulating record drawings, if you will, sometimes not everything is actually recorded or recorded correctly. So when we start working into a tenant improvement inside an existing building, that's a lot of times where we find a lot of unforeseen changes and things that have occurred. We've installed new electrical circuits. We've installed new low voltage wiring for all these fancy systems we're putting in, security, or in hospitals, you do nurse call, or whatever, the fire alarm systems or whatever they are. So a lot of those get integrated into a large structure like 70 West Heading, and you can't do one floor without affecting the whole building. So those are the challenges that we run into in some of the, I would call them medium-sized projects where we're doing tenant improvements. That those are the ones that are really hard to keep in the box, if you will, within the budget a lot of times. So we've started adding a little bit more contingency on those types of projects. So maybe we don't have to come back to the board and ask Mother May I all the time for the next budget increase.
Yeah. Well, I'll just ask, that's helpful. And one last question I would ask, and it's only tangentially related to this, but it just makes me think about VMC and what's underground at Valley Medical Center. And it got me, some time ago when I very first, I think, got on the board of the Valley Transportation Authority, and we were talking about the tunneling that's going to be necessary to build BART through downtown San Jose, that one of the questions our newish executive director asked was where our underground authority was, meaning like where were all the records of the underground activities in our community. And one thing that that actually VMC got me thinking a little bit about was whether or not there would be some value to an underground authority that didn't necessarily have to have elected officials on it, but that was some sort of a working group among, with some sort of memorandums of understanding about how we record what we're doing below grade. Because I'm fearful. I think it's both an opportunity and something I'm fearful about. But when we were building out, when VTA was building out the East Valley, the alignment for bus rapid transit, one of the things that we ran into were a number of areas that were not on any map, where we were bumping into both utilities and broadband. I mean, so I say this mostly because I would love to get your thoughts on that, and whether that's off agenda or not, like an off agenda report, but just to think a little bit about whether or not there could be some benefit for the county as a whole relative to that. I think about it for public safety, fire, a bunch of other areas, but in particular, as we are rebuilding buildings and getting into them, we're discovering things, and mapping those discoveries could be really helpful long term.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. If you think about our new jail or the demolition of our old jail project, when we found out that Comcast was serving about 100,000 people through the street there, that nobody had it mapped anywhere, and so we had to kind of work with them and work around all that kind of stuff. So that kind of knowledge and authority on how things are done and used underground is really important to us.
Yeah, and we may want to, Supervisor Lee, Chair Lee, one of the things that we may want to do is agendize this discussion in the future, and really just make it a discussion item. I wouldn't need a bunch of research, but just so that we could maybe, Jeff, bring together folks in the county to have a conversation, because one thing we may want to do as a county is at least begin the discussions with our larger partners, the Water District, the Valley Transportation Authority. And again, I think this should be a staff empowered project. I don't think it needs a bunch of elected officials on it, because I also think that there are some some security issues as well with all this underground information. So I don't have a solution to that, but anyway, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind kicking that around and letting us know about how we could best approach that. Thank you.
Well, I'll get back to you on an off agenda if that's okay.
Perfect. That'd be
okay.
Great. Thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Vice Chair Chavez. I actually don't have any questions at this time. Clerk, do we have any speaker on this item?
There are no speakers in queue, Mr. Chair.
Okay, good. Then we'll go close the public hearing. The one comment I just want to say is I want to thank the fleet and the facilities and fleet capital programs for working closely with our management auditor to come to this agreement. And usually these things are not necessarily easy, but I really appreciate the type of collaborations you guys have done ahead of time and get this worked out, so that we're going to do the CIP for the capital improvements. And I think that would certainly be the transparency and clarity that we need. So thanks so much. And without further comments, I'll take the vote. Do I have a motion?
Motion. I made it earlier with the motion with the change.
I'm so sorry. Yes, you're
That's
right.
okay.
So I'll second it, and I'll just take the vote. For those who support, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion approved unanimously. Moving to item number 5. Item number 5 is a report from the Management Audit Division on the previous audit of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District. The Board of Supervisors has ordered up the monthly reports from the district regarding implementation of the audit recommendations. And here to present on this item today is also, again, Cheryl Soloff from the Management Audit Division. Thank you, Cheryl. And also, go ahead, please, Cheryl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Each month we provide a summary of the progress that the district has made toward implementation of the recommendations. And at this time, we do not have any concerns regarding the status of the implementation. They've either already implemented the recommendations that were agreed to by the Board of Supervisors, or they're on track to implement those recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Does the fire district have anything else to add to this report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Jay Logan. I'm the General Manager of Los Altos Hills County Fire District. So welcome. Nice to be present and welcome. I would like to say that things are working very well in the implementation of the management audit recommendations. And those items that come to mind are the assistance and responsiveness from County Council as a district's legal counsel, having a more defined procurement process, increasing interactions with other county departments, and promoting the district's integration with the county to make the district better connected as an operational unit of the county. I appreciate very much the monthly reporting process and assistance from Management Audit Division, and there is an increasing interest and transparency to the public and to district residents in the Board of Supervisors meeting process, Hewlett, and the FGOC committees. In summaries, activities are in order and progressing well from the perspective of the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Logan. Now, is anybody else from the fire district who would like to speak today? I do see the fire chief is here as well.
And also Commissioner Tyson is.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Tyson, of course. George, hi.
Hello. Thankfully, I have very little to say. I just want to echo what General Manager Logan has said. We're cooperating and learning how to work even better all the time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Chief Bowden?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm here just to be available for questions should you have any, but I appreciate being allowed to participate. Thank you, Supervisor Lee and Supervisor Chavez.
Thank you for being here, Chief. All right. Let's say, so Vice Chair Chavez, do you have any questions on this item?
Actually, I do, and this may be this is a broad question, so I'll leave it up to all of you who is most appropriate to answer this. But you know, the board made some recommendations, as you know, that were broad relative to how we are taking a look, particularly at our wildfire approaches. And I just wonder what work is happening now as we get ready for those conversations and those studies between the district. I was going to say the district and the district, but you know, between all the parties. And I'm curious about what discussions have gone on and where do you see them going?
I'll be glad to start the conversation on that. And we're right now in our budget cycle. And so in that budget cycle, we're incorporating in increased vegetation integration and management of hazardous fire fuels. And we're working in partnership with Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council. And we're following the management audit recommendation, and that is to identify high fire risk areas. And after the CZU fire, that's not too hard to do because we know where our vulnerable boundaries are, and then coming up with strategies as to how to address those boundaries through hazardous fire fuel mitigation. It's a partnership, a collaborative effort. Certainly Central Fire is very engaged, as is Fire Safe Council as the manager of those kinds of programs, and as the town of Los Altos Hills. So that's one of the areas. Another is in helping our residents become more resilient. And that's the motto and the word that we're using this year is building resilient communities and having individual resiliency through property hardening and property hygiene. And so those efforts are underway. And I think one of the things we follow the motto of is when suppression is called in as a cure, it's because prevention and protection didn't work. And so we're a district that's really looking at the protection and prevention for our residents. So that's just quickly off the top of my head, but it's all going into our budget. We're just doing our strategic plan, and we're going to be integrating all of those items together along with the management audit recommendations. So thank you for that question.
Thanks, that's helpful. I don't know if Chief Bowden, did you want to respond to that?
Sure. Thank you, Supervisor Chavez. There's a lot of work that continues to go on. I think, as I've said in the past, building a more resilient wildfire community is like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You start at one side, and when you get to the end, you start back over again, because it is just a continuous project that requires continuous improvement and insight into. To that end, I am happy to say that in 2019, I believe, when I gave the wildfire report back to the board, we laid out a program for wildfire protection within the county. And at the top of that program was a program manager, battalion chief level. And as you know, the board approved Central Fire, that budgeted position. And we have since fast tracked that position and had interviews this week, and hope to have that position hired on very shortly. And that is the critical first step in building the foundation of the program. And how that ties in today is General Manager Logan and I talk on a very regular basis on how we can work collaboratively together to better support that program. And as that program grows, with the help of Los Altos Hills Fire District, we're working on, collaborating and both districts working together to support that program, at least for the districts, to get that foundation solidly built. And that's been a very collaborative effort. On top of that, on the prevention side, there's also been operational conversations that General Manager Logan and I have had on how we can make improvements, how we can improve mutual aid within the northern part of the county. And it's been a very good, positive partnership over the last several months working with the fire district. And we're excited to just keep this ball moving, keep it rolling. I tell my staff, it's a big plate of spaghetti, one bite at a time. We will get through it. We just have to keep going. And so I sincerely appreciate the collaborative efforts from the Los Altos Hills County Fire District and working with Central to really tackle this wildfire problem within our county.
The only the follow-up I wanted to make is that, as we move forward on the overall wildfire plan, this bigger plan that that the board's committed to, the one thing I just wanted to make sure that we're all really digesting is that I think this issue around mutual aid is one that we really have to be thinking very critically about. And one of the points I think that that Ms. Logan raised that I just want to really lift up is that the piece around prevention, I think that's right. I think that's really just smart. I think it's really where we need to be. I worry that even as we're going into this year, that we're in a bit of a drought, and I'm really thinking a lot about the implications for next fire season. And and again, this year it started earlier, and I think with all the mudslide and other damage that we're going to need some sort of a kind of a state of the fire region to be discussed, I think. And I would recommend, Chair Lee, that discussion come back here before it go to the full board. But I do think we should be talking about the existing conditions earlier and this year. And I think, because to be frank with you, I think it's going to help in the future making budget decisions. And I think the budget decisions that we're going to have to make are going to be very constrained over the next, I think we'll get out of this year, but the impacts of COVID-19 won't be lost on our budgets. And so I just want to make sure that even as we're doing this other planning that's longer term, and we're doing it concurrently, that we're also digging into what the operational changes that we may need to be making, even as that planning is going on, and not waiting for the plan to be completed. And I don't, there are lots of ways to look at that. I think the point you raised already about how you're embedding changes in your budget, the Los Altos Hills Fire District, changing your budgeting and your strategies immediately are an example of that. But one thing that I will say that I'm concerned about is that I think, depending on what the fire season looks like, I'm worried that there will not be the level of mutual aid as we saw already this time in the future, and the implications of that. And so in any case, I don't have a solution to that. I'm just really putting it out to all of you, because in some ways being able to get in front of the bodies that are making financial decisions, I think is going to be really critical on an ongoing basis, so that this is prioritized. Because I feel like one challenge you all have is when you're doing your job well, no one thinks about you at all, right? It's the curse of doing everything. But now with climate change, I don't think we have a choice. Like I don't think these are real choices anymore, to be silent and just do a good job. And frankly, you all did such a good job with so little resources during this last fire that we didn't see the kind of devastation we could have. And again, that's a demonstration of how you literally are the line of defense. And anyway, I'll give more thought to how that could come back to us, but I would appreciate any of your thinking on that as we check in monthly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Chavez. Yeah, certainly the prevention and protection. I really appreciate the comments that was given earlier regarding how you're trying to identify the high risk areas, trying to get the hazardous fuel mitigation, and also really working individually with the residents to make them to be individually more responsible, more resilient. I've never heard the term property hygiene, you said. I like that, yeah, because at the end of the day, when you were talking about Los Altos, so certainly we were talking about these acre size lot homes, and they certainly have the ability, and really we need to rely on them to help build that fence to the fire. So I really applaud that effort, and I thank Vice Chair Chavez for the proactive approach, because we don't plan ahead now. By the time the fire season comes, it'll be way too late. So thank you for that, and yeah, certainly do let us know what you think we could do to help you all in the future to make sure that this prevention effort is going to be successful moving forward. Thank you. Let's see. First of all, is there any public comment on this report, Clerk?
No speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And that's the case. Do we have a motion to accept the report?
Yes, so moved. Sorry.
Okay, a second. All right. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The report has been received. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now moving to item number 6. Item number 6 is a report from the Finance Agency relating to CalPERS. And I believe here to present on this item is George Dorley from the Controller Treasurer's Office. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. This is George Dorley, Controller Treasurer, and I'll present this item.
Great. Thank you.
I'll give a brief introduction if you'd like, but then I'll certainly be available for questions. This is an annual informational report about what's referred to as the UAL, the unfunded actuarial liability. That's one of the two primary components of what we pay to CalPERS. The other portion being what's called the normal cost. I won't go deep into the weeds, but generally speaking, the normal cost is what we pay for the benefits that are incurred in the current fiscal year, how to basically true that up. And then there's also the component, this UAL is the component that is paying for the past service of our employees. And by the quirk of the law, we are allowed to prepay that UAL, not the normal cost. And we basically, by paying it up front, sort of like paying off any loan earlier, you save money by paying it off earlier. So essentially, if we were to pay this off, and the period we're talking about is the next fiscal year, so the period starting for fiscal year 2021-22 is the period, and if we were in the payment time would be by the end of July 2021. So we're not making a decision now. That's why you don't see a recommendation for an action. It's simply too early to make a decision on that. It would be primarily about cash flow. If cash flow were not a problem, we would simply prepay every year because it would be cheaper. However, the main constraint generally is if we pay that all up front, we are restricting our ability to use those funds for those 11 months that we would otherwise have had those funds. You can see under the reasons section, you can see how we've both prepaid historically as well as in the past year where we did not prepay due to cash flow concerns. So I would envision that we would be making a decision much closer to that July timeframe. And I think I'll stop there and answer any questions or go in any direction you or Vice Chair Chavez may have.
Okay, thank you, George. Vice Chair Chavez, do you have any questions?
Hi, thank you. I just, so George, thank you for the report and appreciate this, and the upcoming report are both very, I think, critical. And I appreciate very much you lifting up the cash flow challenges that we may be having over the next, sometime. We don't know.
If you knew that, Supervisor, please tell me.
Right? But so I'm really appreciative of getting this. And one of the things that I'm interested in better understanding is from a timeline perspective, is the goal to know the answer to this question before the June budget process?
I would believe that we would probably have a much clearer picture, yes. I think it would come down to the fact that the world is pretty darned uncertain right now, and every time I think I figure it out, I'm shocked to my core. So certainly if the factors are clearer closer to the budget hearings, and I see Mr. Aturia coming up when we start talking about budget hearings. So as far as how that gets factored in, I would defer to him, but certainly the lens with which we're making predictions would be better 2 months out than 6 months out.
So the goal would be to have something in the April, May time or April timeframe then?
Yeah,
April feels early, but let me see what Mr. Aturia has to say.
Yeah, for purposes of balancing our recommended budget with one assumption versus the other, we'll be looking at April to make a determination, at least what to recommend. So we'll want to, take a look at the latest cash balances and cash projections at that time for that decision.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So the delta here really is from the 372.1 to 359.8, so it's about $12.3 million difference, right?
Yes, sir.
Pay now or pay later. That's a cost of carrying that cash flow, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you. All right, I'll open up the public comment. Clerk, do we have any public comments?
No speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public comment. So at this time, entertain a motion. Vice Chair,
Move to receive the report.
I'll second. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nope. So no opposed. Unanimous. So the committee will receive the report. And thank you very much, George, for the report, and looking forward to some hopefully good news in 3 months.
I have my fingers crossed, sir.
Me too. When the governor suddenly reported that they found $15 billion instead of a deficit, let's cross our finger that we'll be just so lucky. Thank you. Moving to item number 7. Item 7 is report from the Finance Agency relating to cash balances, and I believe Mr. Droley again.
It is indeed. You are stuck with me. Yes, this is another informational monthly report in which we provide an update to the Finance Committee with regard to what our cash balances are currently. And while there's a lot of details, maybe the one thing I would call out before I open it up to questions might be the on Schedule 1, where you see the chart that shows what says Tran Fund Group monthly cash balance. And sir, if I would just say Tran Group, sorry, that's a bit of an inside term. That I would say is fundamentally the group of funds that we have maximum control over, that we have more discretionary control over. It's not all just general fund, but it's money that you have the authority to make decisions on and move in the easiest fashion. So what you'll see there is that we still do have a fairly healthy cash balance if you look at it in historic standards. However, you will see a gradual decline, and you couple that with the other macroeconomic factors and issues which continue to play into our concerns, and certainly the areas around unreimbursed costs at the hospitals and the cash flow constraints are certainly the highest at the hospital. The general fund is providing the loans that you see talked about there. So that is an ongoing and regular concern. As a matter of fact, we receive literally daily reports on cash balance, something that is probably one of the bigger concerns this office has about managing the upcoming fiscal difficulties. So I think on that, I will pause unless you'd like, and I'm open to any questions you may have, Supervisor.
Yeah, thank you, George. Vice Chair, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to say thanks for this report. And one of the issues that I would like to make sure we're including in this report is the accounts receivable from the hospital system. And just to better understand how this impacts, our overall cash availability, I think that would be really helpful. And this report is really it's a really important report. And I'll say to Supervisor Lee that this is something that I think is really a remnant of the financial crash that we just experienced. And so one of the reasons I think this is so important, and we kept it on the agenda even during good times, was we knew eventually there would be bad times. And the point that, George, I really appreciate you raising is, you know, how this allows us to make some decisions in more real time. So if we could include those accounts receivable, I just think it would be helpful for us longer term.
Thank you, Supervisor. I have noted that, and I'll be communicating.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Supervisor Lee.
Thank you, Supervisor Chavez. And I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Do we have any speaker today?
No speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So looking at this right now, George, my main takeaway is that the cash on hand is about 1.3 at this time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, at the end of the reporting period.
Of November 30th, right.
Right, but
yeah,
I would, but it actually is still 1.34 currently, though, sir.
So we're about there still. Okay, very good. All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Do we need a motion for this one?
Just to accept, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So, thank you. Second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so the report shall be received. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along today pretty quickly to item number 8. Item number 8 on our agenda is an annual report from the Facilities and Fleet Department relating to the cafeteria and food services management. Here to present on this item today is our FAF Deputy Director, Andy Walker. Andy, you here?
I see him, but his mic is on mute. So
good, Chef.
We'll let the report stand for itself, Supervisor Lee. I think that we were just wanting to see what kind of questions you all may have.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Jeff. Yes, and Supervisor Chavez, do you have any questions?
You know, I just had one, more of a comment, and that is that as you know, Jeff, we have a working group that's been working on how we're going to engage around being involved in the food systems that impact the county, and you know, with the work we're doing with Agland and the work we're doing with other business partners and changing some policies for procurement. And one of the questions that I had was how who would be the lead from your organization, or are they already involved, who are the leads on cafeteria operations in particular, to be part of those discussions in that working group?
Yeah, so up through the last contract, the team that worked on that, there was a food services committee, if you will, for the county. It involves Susana Hernandez Perez from the CEO's office, and at that time, I believe she was with Facilities and Fleet for the most part, as well as Kevin Cooper, who was running the cafeteria, not the cafeterias, but the food services over at the juvenile hall, was one of our other persons that was involved. And for a while, I believe we had the food service person from Elmwood as well involved in the review of what we were doing.
And what I just would want to make sure of is that if we could be just mindful of maybe that this committee, the food services committee, is engaged in that body of work. And I don't actually know, I can't remember who from the county exec's office is the lead on that. But if you could inform us, and again, just that could be done off agenda, but just to Jeff, so that we know who that lead staff person is. I just want to make sure, Jeff, that we're engaging the new folks, because I realized there was some transition, and when I saw the last list, I didn't see anybody from your crew, and I just want to make sure that stays connected. So thank you. Those are all my questions, Supervisor Lee, Chairperson Lee.
Thank you, Supervisor Chavez. And yeah, I don't have any further question on this one. Clerk, do we have any public speaker? on this item?
No speakers, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So yeah, thanks so much for the update, Jeff. When we review the report, obviously, with our cafeteria right now, I guess we won't know when we're going to open, and that's what we are. But certainly, with the contract signed, we are not incurring any expenses, right? Because that's the agreement we have.
That is correct. That basically we get a nominal rent. We're kind of a landlord, if you will, and we allow the operator to set their price points and follow our nutrition standards and deliver whatever kind of cuisine that they prefer to deliver.
Right, exactly. And of course, when the time comes, the cafeteria might open. I'm sure you'll let us know, correct?
We will.
Thank you. All right. So Cindy, should we accept the report?
So moved.
Second. All right. The report has been received. Thank you. All right. Moving in pretty quickly today. Yes, so moving to our final item for today is our committee, FGOC, the Finance and Government Operations Committee meetings calendar for the year of 2021. On the proposed agenda here, what we have is we have put down these meetings mainly on the Thursday. This would be usually I think it's the second or Thursday of the month, mostly of the year. They all starts at 2 p.m., but there's a couple of meetings that actually starts at 1 p.m. So looking at the calendar, Supervisor Chavez, so Thursday, May 20th, and also September 16th. Both of those currently is typed in as 1 p.m. I would like to propose if we could change it to 2 p.m. just to make it so that all the time jives and not create confusion with staff and our scheduling. Would that be acceptable to you?
You know, Supervisor Lee, I literally have no idea why there's a challenge with the times. And I'm going to assume that our staffs are working together on that. So I will say yes on behalf of God only knows who, because I haven't spent a bunch of time on that. But so I think I'm presuming that the comments you're making are based on the communications our staffs have had.
Yes, that's
Okay.
my understanding.
Then I will say so moved.
Okay, thank you. Second. And then I would say that, if there's any necessary changes as time goes by, I'm sure we could make it ad hoc at that time. Yeah, we could work that out.
Yeah, thanks, Supervisor.
Absolutely, thank you. And of course, just to be clear, this calendar goes all the way to December, and there's no July meeting. Okay, great. And so we'll go ahead and accept that. All approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so the new schedule has been adopted. All right, so I guess that's the full agenda for today. Unless I hear any comments, we'll go ahead and adjourn to the next regular meeting, which will be held on Thursday, February 18th at 2 p.m. My notes here says it will be held at the Board of Supervisors Chambers. I am not that optimistic.
Good catch, Otto.
Yeah. And I would think it's probably virtual teleconference, but I know we are working very hard on getting the vaccines out. I was out at the press conference this morning, but certainly we have some challenges that we are actually running our vaccines coming from the federal government. The good news is that our staff has been doing very well getting the vaccines out to close to 6,000 vaccinations a day just from the county. And what we need is just more vaccine coming from the federal government. And again, all right, so the meeting is now adjourned, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Otto. Good job.
Thank you.
This meeting has now concluded. Thank you.